Welcome back. A member of Parliament for a diverse and multicultural Montreal area constituency, Stephane Dion grew up as a Catholic. In this third part of our interview with Mr. Dion, we find out what drives his spiritual faith and his thoughts towards multiculturalism. I want to ask you a little bit about your own spiritual background. Many viewers of our show are interested in issues of faith and religion. You grew up in Quebec during the Quiet Revolution, during a time when the idea of religion was suspect, and that was trying to be, people were suspicious of that. Where are you at in your own spiritual journey? What kind of drives your own spiritual faith?
Well, it's true that my cultural background is Catholicism. And my conviction is that all the religions of the world are great. I will never forget something. After September 11, to come back to, to come back to terrorism, after September 11, what has been the first gesture of Jean Chrétien? He went in the mosque and he said, this is not a clash of civilizations, don't believe that. It's a clash between civilization, all the faith together, against terrorism. And it's where I am. I am proud of my own background as a Catholic, but I know that we need to create bridges in this country and to respect all the great religions of humanity.
Is there a place when religion is used too much in politics? Have you seen that, and are you suspicious of people that use faith in ways?
Yes, I believe it's important to protect the secular reality of our government. The government has no religion. The government role is to protect all the faiths and all the religions and the right to have to practice your religion. This is the role of the government. But the government itself is not Catholic or Protestant. And this distinction is very important to me because we are in a multicultural country, and we know that we'll be stronger if we make sure that everybody feel at home in Canada and everybody is willing to share his and her background with the others instead to have an addition of close ghettos in this country.
Yeah, which is a very interesting point. Often multiculturalism is blamed for the ghettoization.
Yeah.
That you have, Sikhs often they're in a Sikh community, you have Christians often Christian communities, and there's not as much integration. How do we address that?
I think it's a risk to have this ghettoization. We should never take for granted that it's not existing. It may exist. But multiculturalism is not that. Multiculturalism is to say, oh, you have an interesting background, you have an understanding of part of the world. If you give it to your children, it will be an asset if they are able to share it with others. And this idea that we need to share between each other is key, otherwise we'll miss it. I am member of parliament in a very multicultural area in Montreal. We are a kind of United Nations of our own at Saint-Laurent-Cartierville. And I do a lot each time that there is a difficulty to be sure that the leaders of the communities come together and bridge the people. There was, for instance, a school in my riding, a Jewish school that had been burnt for hatred reasons. Yes, and right away the Muslim leaders came there and showed how much it was important to be together facing this awful situation. So it's the way we are in Saint-Laurent-Cartierville. It's the way we are, I think, in Canada, with exception, but most of the people have this mind. And if the world had this kind of approach, it would be much better.
Is there ever a fear of trying to play to certain religious groups, sects, if you will, that in order to get votes, that you're trying to play to certain religious groups or ethnic groups? Is that a problem in Canadian politics?
Well, it may be the case, but it's not the case with the Liberal Party. I may tell you that we all have this attitude. When we speak to a community, is always to praise their contribution to Canada as a whole.
I want to talk a little bit about the environment for a minute. the Liberal Party, while they were in power, had lots of opportunity to really address the issues of the environment. They didn't really do it. What's different about you now that you would say, we're going to take these issues more seriously? Why should people trust you?
Two things. First, we did a lot. Second, I agree with the people who said we didn't do enough. But it's true for all the governments around the world. We need to do much more. But under the Liberal watch, we created legislations. We had important initiatives regarding national parks. I think Madame Copps did a lot. David Anderson did a lot to give to Canadians the tools to protect our environment. Mm-hmm. But it's not enough. The issue of the 21st century for humanity is to reconcile the people and the planet. And for that, we need to focus on that as much as we have focused on social programs in the 20th century. The 20th century has been a century where we learned, with difficulties, but we learned, especially in Canada, how to integrate economic growth and social justice, to create the wealth and to share it. It's not perfect, but it has been the challenge. Now is to create the wealth, to share it with the next generations, sustainable development. So the same motivation that convinced us, liberals, to put our fiscal house in order in 1993 and to have a competitive country when our economy was in jeopardy after what Mr. Mulroney did, must be the same thing in 2008, if there is an election in 2008. We need then to address our deficit of innovation regarding the environment. And if we do that, if we make Fort McMurray sustainable, we'll be a more competitive country. This idea of Mr. Harper that if you do too much environment, you will kill the growth and not be competitive enough in the world is wrong. The countries that are addressing the environment properly are competitive economies. I want the same for Canada.
Well, thank you so much for coming on our show tonight, Mr. Dion.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Randall.
Have a thought or comment you want to share about our interview with Liberal leader Stephane Dion? We will tell you how when the Standard returns.